Good evening, everybody. Gosh, there's a lot of you in here. Thank you so much for joining us. I have Tara with me. Of course, um, we are at our hotel, so Tara's inside. I'm outside, so I'm not on camera. But thank you so much for all of you that are here and that have been waiting. I really appreciate it. Just real quick, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Kathy Mitchell, Lollipop, and Deborah Barnett for becoming new members. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anything you want to say before we get started, Tara?
There's a lot of information, a lot. It's hard to get through all of it, so we're likely to miss some things. Um, it was emotional. It's probably the biggest day for this week. Hopefully, we can't get much bigger than today, but bear with us as we get through it. We're gonna try to capture all the questions as we can, and Kari and I will just end up kind of going back and forth. We'll have to interrupt each other
Yeah.
because our notes are really thorough and really scary because of it.
Right. Yeah. So normally, we're really like put together, I think, with slides and what have you. You're not getting that from us tonight. I'm really sorry. We got home well, after court, we went to Subway and that took 30 minutes for two subs. And then we just kind of been wrapping up things, as we can before this. So what you're going to get is our notes that we took basically from the moment we walked in the courtroom, what we observed, what was said. Cora did testify, as did Paul Grice, and they were the only two that testified today. So as you can imagine, it was very emotional. It was very draining. Um, a
Yep.
lot of questions that we've all had, and a lot of those gaps, I think, were filled in. I also do think that it might leave some of you with even some more questions now. You think so too, Tara?
Yeah, there's definitely gonna be more questions because not all the information's coming out. This is just a preliminary. This is just
Hmm.
the prosecution basically throwing out their highest cards for the most part, saying these charges can stick. I disagree with him to a certain degree with when it comes to them, but we had some shocking turns and gasps, and
Yes,
it was
yes.
very dramatic in the courtroom from the get-go. It started off with a twist. So it's a lot. There's just a lot.
Yeah, it was. All right. So, I mean, with that, we'll just get started. I do want to real quick thank the mods that are in the chat. Please keep our chat clean, respectful, act like adults. Make sure that you stop and think about what you're going to type before you actually type it.
Yeah.
Do know that family is almost always watching, and they can see what you're saying. So just be careful with your thoughts, questions, and opinions are completely fine. Tara and I have them too. Just be careful with how you word things, I think, and just be respectful. Um, no talk of the children, please, other than what we will discuss. We told you guys if things were brought up in court that we will present it as it was brought up in court, and we, unfortunately, are going to have to do that this evening. But we were pretty prepared. Um, so with that, yes, over 500. Oh my gosh, I can't see how many are watching. That's probably a
There's
good thing.
there's 658 right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've got a big crowd. This is a great thing. There's a lot of people who have a lot of questions because it's there was just a lot. This was big deal. Paul was on the stand today. Cora was on the stand today. Um, there was a big twist in it. So that's where this case starts with. That's where today starts with is the first big WTF? What just happened? And so
Yes. Lots of
that's
gasps, lots of sigh, like, really some shocking testimony at times. That Tara and I feel like we probably know this case inside and out, left and right, but there's a lot that we don't know either. And we definitely had some oh my God moments. Like, I mean, I sat there and I said out loud, I can't believe what I just heard. So it really was rough. So be careful in listening. Just know that it is, a lot of it will be very, very, very difficult to listen to. I advise if you have children around, please move somewhere else. Do not let children hear this. Um, and yeah, anything else that I should add real quick, just like housekeeping, Tara?
I'm going to reiterate, family and loved ones are listening. So we will try to do our best in presenting the information as it was presented in court. The media is going to present things. I just keep in mind the boundaries, please. Families listening, we want to be very, very respectful. They went through hell today. They were skinned in court. They were emotionally skinned alive in court today. So just ask that you keep that in mind as you put your comments in there. If it was your family, what would you want to read?
Yes, for sure.
So with that, you want to hop into it?
There was a comment.
That was a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I was just gonna thank you so much for that. She said, I've shared with a large community I'm a part of. We're excited to meet you all. Thanks for covering. We're excited to meet you too. Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much. You could
you.
be anywhere else tonight. And definitely appreciate you guys being here with us. And yes, if you haven't hit the like button, please do that real quick. All right. So with that said, let me get started. And Tara and I'm going to go through my notes and, if she wrote down something different or had something extra added to it, then she's going to jump in and do that. Let's see. There we go. Hide that current comment. Oops, 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 oops. Okay. And Cookie Altman, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Truly appreciate it. That's a great way to support the channel, and we do appreciate that. All right. Let's go. Oops. All right. So in the courtroom, there is
I'm
was
gonna
the
hold
judge at
on.
the very go ahead.
Let me stop you real quick. Just so we're clear. I just got a weird text, and just so we know, other creators are watching us as well. And just we know you're here. We know you can't be here in person, so you're fine to be here. Please join the chat and be a part of the conversation. We just want everybody here to feel like they can be a part of the conversation. Just want to say that real quick.
Absolutely.
All righty.
Yes, and I'm sorry if the internet kind of cuts out a little bit. I can see Tara's cutting in and out a little bit. But we're working off of the hotel Wi-Fi, so please just be patient with us on that. It looks like she froze.
I'm not well. Yes and no. I may have to.
You froze for a minute. Yeah, you're like breaking up and freezing.
I will. Maybe I'll take the earbuds out and we'll try it that way. But keep going.
Okay, so
You're good. We'll keep going.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Kari is the one that was breaking up. I think it's what's happening. So hopefully she'll come back in. Hopefully she'll just come upstairs, but we'll see what happens. So everybody can hear me, hopefully. Oh, there she is. Are you there, Kari? If you can hear us, we can't hear you just yet.
Connection. Okay.
And you're trying to talk, so we cannot hear you. I can't hear you just yet. Okay, hopefully we can get this connection figured out. We were doing so good to start. We should just jumped in instead of having the whole introduction and housekeeping stuff. And I don't want to jump in without her. So hopefully she'll be right back. So I guess what can always start with the fact that there was a lot of family there in the courtroom. There was around 10 passes for media individuals. So media could be social media type of influencers, YouTube crime. That's where Kari was seated at today. I was seated with the family. Family had a specific row to sit in, rather, and we were in the second row. There were investigators there. They usually have the front row. And then there was quite a bit of family there today, and there were some spectators as well. I'm not sure if all who the spectators were. They we obviously we don't get that kind of information, but and Kari's gone again. So we'll just kind of keep chatting away here. But the courtroom was filled. There was a capacity of 50 allowed in the courtroom. And Jillian's family was represented in the courtroom today. Jillian's father and her brother and sister were there. Her mother did not join today. A lot of Veronica's family was there. Those that we've seen before were there. A lot of support. There was support for the Twomblys, and there was support for Tad. I didn't see any support for Tiffany. Kari and I talked about that at one point. We don't think we noticed anybody for Tiffany's side. Kari, are you there yet?
I am. Is that better?
I can't hear you, so I don't know what's going on. Can anybody hear Kari now that she's come back on? Hopefully, maybe so.
Yeah, if you guys can hear me, will you just, let me know?
I don't know. Let me try real quick. Kari, are you there?
Maxine hears both. Yes.
Yeah, I still can't now hear you. Okay, you guys can hear her, but I can't. Let me try refreshing my screen. Hold on a second.
Of course, we have technology problems. Sorry, guys. It happens.
Okay, I can hear Kari now.
Awesome. And I can hear you. Okay, we're good to go. You know what?
We're good.
I wasn't connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. What a dog. All right. Sorry, guys.
So I just
I was working on my phone cell service.
You're good. I had just covered that who was in the courtroom.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking like, did she go out again?
Cole was there.
Mm-hmm.
Cole was there with 2 female attorneys. Tad has 3 female attorneys, 1 male, and of course that is the one that was not there today. He had a conflict. Tiffany had her 2 male attorneys. There were 5 sheriff deputies in the courtroom. So at every corner of the courtroom, there are sheriff's deputies. A few of the people that were present in the gallery was, let's see, we had Clint Twombly was there, who is Cole Twombly's cousin. Cora's mom was there. Tad's mom, of course, was there. She's usually present at all the hearings. Now, one thing that was really nice to see, Jillian's brother, her dad, and her sister were all there as well for Jilian. So that was really wonderful to get to meet them for the first time and have them there. Wrangler's grandmother was there, of course. So that's just kind of a rundown of who all was there. Media, we had Woodward News, the Oklahoman, of course, myself and Tara, Lauren Conlin, Wichita News was there. I think Kansas City News. Is that right? I believe it was Kansas City.
I think Kansas City.
So the courtroom was completely full. Yeah, courtroom was full. We got there at what, about 8:15, I think. 8:15.
No, we were there at 7:40.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, we were there early.
All right, yeah. So we got there. Yeah. All right. So Judge Jett is the judge hearing this case, and he started the hearing at 3 minutes to 9 this morning. Of course, I said with the courtroom full. Present for the state was the DA, the assistant DA, the first assistant DA, and then Trevor Ridgway, who is the lead investigator on this case for Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Right away, Tiffany Adams' attorney approached the judge, and basically Tiffany Adams waived her preliminary hearing on her 9 counts. The paperwork had not been done prior to the hearing starting this morning, so they did it right then. It was completed while in court, and at that time, like, I was trying to watch, how the different how they were acting. Cole just appeared kind of to be smiling, laughing briefly. Tiffany, like I said, she was only in there for maybe 10 minutes or so, if that, and then she was
maybe.
out. So she waived the right to her preliminary. She waived her right to a speedy trial. She waived her right to be arraigned within 30 days. So the state requested the date of April 16th at 9 a.m., which is the third Wednesday of the month for that. And that is on her 9 charges. So she did not take a plea deal. I was seeing a lot of comments in the Facebook group and on Facebook and what have you about a plea deal. So just because she waived all of those rights does not mean that she has made any kind of, or even been offered a plea deal at this point. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't know what kind of plea deal I would want to offer Tiffany Adams, especially after all the testimony we heard today. Any thoughts on that, Tara?
I think she's got a plea deal. I think it was one of those last minute things because Tiffany's team was the one that was pressing to have this pushed further out. It was her attorney that struggled back in September, indicating he didn't have enough time to go through the evidence that was available in time for today's preliminary proceedings. And so it would not surprise me if they said, hey, that plea deal, because I think every defendant is offered a plea deal when it comes to things like this. And it's probably one of the things where Tiffany's attorney said, hey, is that plea deal still available? Because now we'll take it. And they said, yeah, if you want to do that now, we can. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the way it went. It could be that she waived it. I don't know why she would waive it. Those are very heavy charges. And given the testimony we got today, they can stick. Like,
Yeah.
she's by waiving her right to a preliminary, she's stating, yeah, I'll go to trial for those charges. That's what she's saying. Meanwhile, Tad and
Yeah.
Cole are like, nope, we don't want to go to trial.
And,
We want you to prove that those are the charges you have to try us for.
yeah, and I don't think they're going to drop any of her charges as they have Paul and Cora.
No, they've
Cherie
added to hers.
Yeah. Well, she has those 9.
Yeah.
Cherie said, I'll have to let Melanie Little know you guys are covering the case. She was one of the first YouTubers to cover when the girls went missing and was talking to another creator when she found the spot. I was right there with them, by the way. I was right there looking for the girls with that creator. Okay, so moving on, Tiffany Adams still has a right to a jury trial, and she still has presumption of innocence. Ms. Adams and her attorneys were dismissed right away. There was a brief break right after that while they rearranged the tables that the defendants were sitting at. We came back in at 9:12 a.m. and with just Tad and Cole. One attorney, the judge wanted one attorney out of Cole and Tad's to be the one that would do the objection and, the cross-examination and things like that. So it was Tad's attorney that did the majority of that. And I can never remember her name, though. Joy?
I think so. I don't recall. I just remember them saying only one legal member per team per witness. So basically, assign your team members to a witness, and that's all who's going to be interacting today.
Right. And let's see. Kelley? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Vixen. There were no plea deals today. So there were no plea deals done today. Not to say there won't be, but there has not been. All right. So then the state presented the autopsy reports to the court as their first two exhibits.
Yep.
There was no objection to that. Exhibit 1 was Veronica Butler's autopsy, and exhibit 2 was Jilian's. Exhibits 3 through 5. Now, this courtroom's a little different than some that maybe you guys have watched. So there was no like overhead projector or anything. We had to just kind of try really hard to see what the DA was holding in his hand, and especially drawings and stuff. So exhibits 3 through 5 were the lab reports from the state forensics lab. Tad's attorney objected to that, but the judge overruled, and of course he admitted the reports. And then at 9:20 a.m., the first witness began. And that was Cora Twombly. So at that point, we had Cora in the room. Tad Cole, Cora's attorney, sat in the jury section right next to her. She never spoke that I heard, but she did sit right there by her. Cora's attorney did request that her handcuffs be removed, but the judge did deny that.
That was the second request for
She
handcuffs
was
to be
asked some
removed.
questions, and she answered, that she resided at Plainview School in Grice, Oklahoma for about 9 years, and that's about the same amount of time that her and Cole have been married. On March 3rd, she said her son lived in Carrick, Texas, so that's her oldest son. That is just across the Oklahoma state line. Like, they could almost step across it from where they lived. So in Griggs, and then CW, who everybody has heard of, lived at home with Cora and Cole. Cora has been charged with 5 counts, and she did make a plea agreement. So in that plea agreement for Cora Twombly, she has admitted to guilt, and she has also agreed to testify today and at the trial if necessary. On her charges, counts 1 and 2 were the 2 murder charges. So she is getting a life sentence with all suspended but 30 years. She's also receiving a $1,000 fine. On counts 3 and 4, those were dismissed with costs. And count 5, she received 10 years to the Department of Corrections. Stevens County, Kansas. So if you guys, I'm not sure what Kansas had to do with that, Tara. Do you remember? But
Are you there? Oh, I can't hear her. Are you there? Are you breaking up? Is Kari breaking
do you
up?
hear me?
Yeah, but you're breaking up.
No, I don't think so. Am I breaking up, guys?
They said you were last time, but you're on the Wi-Fi, so I don't understand why you would be now. Yeah, CB says you broke up. Debbie's catching a breakup. Meh. I can hear you now. I can hear I can tell you're back on.
Okay, so I'm the one breaking up. All right. I might have to come in there. So Tara, I was talking about the Stevens County, Kansas is not going to pursue any charges. Do you remember what that was for? Why that county?
I believe,
is that Hugoton?
It's Hugoton. I think Elkhart and Hugoton Elkhart is in Morton County. Hugoton is in Stevens, but I'm not sure what. I'd have to go back and look and see why Cora was connected to that, because they basically gave her immunity from Stevens County.
Yeah. Oh, I bet because she went over to Hugoton or Elkhart. She went to
She was an
Elkhart.
Elkhart driving around. Yeah, she never made it to Hugoton per her testimony. She was in Elkhart driving around.
Okay, so Hugoton is Stevens County. And yes, she will serve 40 years.
Yep, Stevens
There
is
we go,
Hugoton.
right
Yeah.
there. Okay.
I think we've gotten reports
Veronica.
of 30 and 40 years, so we need to clarify that one too. They kind of went
Well,
through
it's
that quickly,
30.
I think.
It's 30 on counts 1 and 2, but count 5, she did get 10
The
years
10.
to the
Okay.
Department of Corrections. So 40 years.
But so there's the law in Oklahoma, an 85% pool or something. So she may only serve 85% of that time. That's might be
Yeah, she
important to
will
point
not
out.
have to serve all of that.
Yeah.
No, she won't. All right. And then the DA said, she did a video interview with OSBI previously. Cora stated that everything that she said in that video interview was accurate and truthful. She at that time briefly glanced over at Cole. To me, she looked visibly upset. But surprisingly enough to me anyway, just my look on it, she just didn't show much emotion today that I would have felt a mother who had participated in something like this. I would have expected a lot more emotion.
I wasn't sure what to expect from her. I just wasn't sure, given everything that's happened and the decisions that she's made thus far.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure what to expect from her.
So CB Slinger said Cora should do approximately 34 years before eligible. That sounds about right.
That's about right. Yeah, that might be. Oh my goodness.
Connie,
Nope, you're not super late.
You're good.
You want to keep
All
going?
right, and so then this is where things started to get kind of interesting. Can you hear me, Tara?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So after COVID in 2021, and these words are what Cora was saying, and as I was writing them down. So Tara may have, additional things she wrote down or whatever, and you can jump in anytime, Tara. So the God's Misfits group after COVID in 2021, it kind of came to fruition at Cora and Cole Twombly's home. They had been watching constitutional rights videos. Paul came over. Now they didn't really know Paul. Paul came over to buy a puppy because they bred puppies.
Well,
He
Cora
came over
does
to
know Paul.
buy a puppy.
No, Kari,
and then
Cora,
he started.
She can't hear me. Can you hear me? Cora does know Paul. She's
Yeah,
known Paul since he was a kid. So Cora did know
that's right.
Paul.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes. So he came to buy a puppy, and then he started to come, to watch these videos, and the group that everybody is called God's Misfits, the group grew from there. In the beginning, she said there was 6 adults, adult children, which was probably Frank Twombly, the cook's oldest daughter, who is married to Frank Twombly. So she said 6 adults, adult children, and it was her and Cole, Paul Grice and Lachey, which is his wife, Barrett and Lacey Cook, the cook's oldest daughter, of course, who is married to Frank Twombly. She said all of them had close friendships with each other. The group met on Sundays, and then they also Sunday evenings at the Twomblys. And then they started to meet at the cook's house, at Barrett and Lacey's Cooks, on Wednesday evenings. And these became regular meetings every Wednesday and Sunday.
Yes.
A couple of other people, she was asked, who else came to these meetings. So that's the reason I'm sharing them. in the court. You know, it was happening in court. So some other people that she shared were Kenny Bob Tapp and Rachel, his wife, his brother Josh, Brad Grice, who is Paul, and Brad also worked for Tad and Tiffany. And then they said that there was a couple of young girls that came to hang out with CW.
And no, the cooks are not being indicted, nor do we know if they have to testify, Kylie. That's not been stated.
With everything we know regarding the cooks.
Oh, you cut out. Did you cut out, or what, did you say something before everything we know with the cooks? Were you talking about that statement on the screen there?
The statement on what?
Were you talking about that comment that you pulled up on screen? Oh, I don't think we're making connection. I cannot hear you. Okay, I can't hear her, guys, if she's talking. If
yeah,
you guys, oh, there you are.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Kari.
So Leah said, I felt the cooks knew about it. And yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, Kari, can you hear me right now?
Okay, let me come in if you want to just chat for a minute.
I'll respond to some of what's going on in the chat. So Connie, it's very interesting that so many of these names have been mentioned numerous times. Yeah, they have been. Let's see if I can.
I can hear you just fine.
We can't hear you. You keep cutting in and out on us because it sounds like you're there, but then I can't hear you, and it looks like from the chat they can't either. What did Brad Grice do for Tiffany and Tad? That wasn't stated in court today or anything of that nature, so we'd have to look into that, Craig. Let's see, what else do we have up here? Okay, road showed hazard. No doubt, yep, definite road showed hazard. Okay, what about the others? Will they be charged with accessory? So as we go through the testimony, you're going to hear nothing about anybody else knowing. They never talked about anybody else knowing. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I know that what we heard today is just a tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to come. So just we're gonna have to stand by for all of us together at this point. So unfair. 40 years. How old is she? Cora, I think, is in her early 40s. Now I just got a text that said you guys can't hear me either. Is that correct? Can you guys hear me okay? And Kari is on her way inside. I think so. Yep, that she's 45. Cooks have not moved anywhere. The cooks have moved. The cooks are no longer in the immediate area. They have moved out of state. I have verified that one for sure. See if I go back. So you guys can hear me. That's good. Okay, good. That's good. You guys can hear me. Somebody said they couldn't hear me, so maybe that was a one-off. Okay, now I'm getting the message that you guys can hear me. I can hear Kari trying to come in. She hasn't left the show. Okay, so we can come back to, let's see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now. So let's see here. Kenny Bob Trapp ran for Senate or something a few years back. That kind of seems familiar, actually. We'll have to see. Thank you guys that are texting me that you guys can hear me. I appreciate it. Trying to look at the trying to make sure everybody we're all on the same page. That's what we need to be. Yes, the cooks did move. A lot of problems going on there, for certain. Let's keep going. You guys have got good ears. If cooks moved, kind of ironic, isn't it? I think that can go a couple of different ways, Jennifer. Really, if whether involved or not, people are going to make their opinion, and I think that opinion was probably shared in the form of communication that's not so much fun. And so, if they felt threatened, if they felt maybe cornered, whatever their feelings were, they acted on them. It sounds like, and so I'm not sure of their exact location. I do know that they are out of state. But it's not a feel good movement, right? But to each their own. So Brad Grice, if let me check my notes again, but I think it is Paul Grice's brother. I think I turned the page. I think it was on the previous page, but let me double check. It's Paul Grice's cousin, is what we heard in court today. Brad Grice is Paul Grice's cousin. And Kari just came back into the room, and she's shaking her head in frustration. Huh? No, she tried to log in from the downstairs lobby, and it wasn't working down there either. Okay. Let's see. Not sure why somebody floating around a different chat is a big deal. It's not the topic, the conversation, but that's okay. We can do that too. With Cora's deal, do you feel CW will have to testify? Regardless of who makes a deal, if there is a trial and there's a need for that testimony, yes. It would be great if, as a parent, you stepping down away and doing the right thing for whatever reason prevented your child from having to testify at all. It would be great if it worked that way, but unfortunately, it's not going to work that way. So if there is a trial and there is a need for that testimony, yes, they will use her to testify. Now, will CW be making an appearance this week? We don't know. We're waiting to find out. So stay tuned for that. And actually, I think CB, they said in court today it was Paul's cousin. That's who Brad is, right, Kari? Yeah, it was identified as. Yeah, it's Paul's cousin. Yeah, the cooks moved. That's not all suspicious, right? Again, Brad Grice is Paul Grice's cousin. Has it been verified? The cooks actually verified officially through the folks that can say it on record? No, we haven't gotten that official. It had been back and forth for quite some time. Where today's testimony didn't look good on the cooks. It really didn't. It looks like they were definitely around, but were they around for the conversations? That doesn't seem to be the case. So it's a lot to take in. Do you think others will be charged or just the 5? I don't know. After what I heard today, I don't know. And I don't know I think Kari would probably agree. I don't know that this is the only charges that are out there to be had. Oh goodness. So are they saying that those were the only people involved in the God's Misfits meetings? So the people that were mentioned are the ones that were mentioned by name. There were some others that were mentioned, but not by name because the names were not remembered. So roughly 15 to 16 adults, but it did sound like there were more children than adults at those meetings. Again, I know you guys are coming up with brother, and what was said in court today was cousin. They kept repeating cousin. So I know Paul has numerous siblings, and it would make sense that he would be a brother, but it was said over and over again, it was his cousin. So maybe we need to go back and ask that. And so, Bianca, as a wrench, if you have to ask that question, you can go ahead and just remove from the chat, because if we're not going to focus on the conversations today, and I happen to understand that we're just going to put this out there and knock it out, Vixen, I know that you're another creator, and it's fine for you to be here. We appreciate you being here. You're welcome to join the chat and be a part of the conversation. But if we're going to start some shenanigans that don't belong here, then we'll just go ahead and take you out the checks. We want to keep this focused. We have a lot of information to go through. There's over 1,000 people here. We're just not going to pay attention to that kind of thing. You're moving through those comments quick.
Let's see. Okay. Can everybody hear me better now? I pray, and I'm so sorry.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Yeah, I'll try it again.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Good deal. Sorry about that. All right. So let's go back
Hilarious.
to where I was. Thank you for carrying the live, Tara.
Let's see. So what I do, I just carry the weight. Yes, there's a whole bunch of people that can hear you. I love when the
And
chat
yes,
does that.
Brad Grice is Paul's cousin. He worked for Tad and Tiffany. I think I heard that being asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Clint Twombly, who is obviously Cole's cousin, also joined the group.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose, according to Cora, the purpose of their group, the God's Misfits, was to learn constitutional rights and how to use them in today's world. And they went to this guy named David Straight. And I have not looked him up. I don't know if Tara had a chance yet, but we're going to. So they went to this David Straight seminar. Cole and Frank went to see him. And this, Cora said, this really fired them up. It got them really excited over, this whole state nationalist kind of thing. David Straight, now this is everything I'm saying, this is Cora's testimony, not my thoughts or anything. David Straight's ideology is to learn constitutional rights and how that works in a government system. The state nationalist, non-resident aliens, it's all that kind of thing. And he provided the information and helped people achieve it, apparently. Cora said that it's really hard to achieve that end goal of a state's nationalist, and she doesn't think anyone that she knows had achieved. Yeah, I'm echoing, and I'm not sure why.
It must be me.
I can hear it in my own.
It must be me. Let me see if I can switch over to my headset. If I have my earbuds in. This is good times. Undo yourself?
I can't unmute myself.
Oh, that's fun. There, you just were.
Okay, there we go. Let me mute Tara and see if, okay, now I don't hear the echo. All right, so sorry about that. We're figuring out, we're not used to doing this out of a hotel room. So David Straight, you guys, look him up and see what you come up with, and we're going to do the same. But apparently he puts on these big seminars and really gets these people amped and pumped up, to be state nationalists, and teaches them all about their constitutional rights and how to use them and anti-government kind of thing. So that's what this was all about. So like I said, she said it's really hard to achieve it. She doesn't know if anybody around her actually achieved it. When none of them could find a church, then they would all get together and pray, she said. Oh, I still have you muted, Tara. There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Still echo, though. Oh.
Yeah, my mic's not. Hold on. Hold on. Just go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so that was David Straight. And then she went on to say that she had known Tiffany her whole life. Tiffany and Cora grew up in Keys, or Tiffany grew up in Keys, Oklahoma. Cora grew up in Boise City. So they were, they knew each other. They lived very close. She says she knows basically everyone in Cimarron County. She said that her and Tiffany were not really close when they were growing up. So they only became close over the last year, maybe possibly 2 years. Cora said in the last year or so, her and Tiffany Adams started getting closer together. They would talk about their children and things like that. So, a wrangler who is Tiffany Adams' son, and Cole's son, who passed away. His name is Vern. They were friends. So Tiffany Adams started coming on their Sunday get together sometime in 2022. Um, CW started babysitting Tiffany's grandkids, Veronica's children, in August of 23. She said, Cora said that um, Tiffany's children or Tiffany's grandkids, or it was Cora's kids, I believe. Anyway, attended the Kingdom's First Church homeschool group, and the Cook's kids were homeschooled. The Kingdom's First Church homeschool group was a school in Keys, Oklahoma. And they had two curriculums. She said one was Christian, one was secular. Her and Tiffany Adams both had the same political views. Most everyone meeting did share the same kind of political views. The group practiced their right to bear arms daily. She made that very clear. She even kind of giggled a few times about it. Her and Tiffany Adams shared problems that they were having with the children and Tiffany's grandchildren. And that, she said, brought them closer together just before around August of 23. She said there were challenges that they were both dealing with as far as like Vern and Wrangler, and she said they were drug addicts. The Tiffany's grandchildren and their situation brought them closer. She said she knew Tiffany was trying to get custody of the kids, but Tiffany told Cora that the kids were being abused at their mother's home, and that abuse was happening by their uncle, their mother's brother. She said Cora and CW babysit Veronica's children every Wednesday and Sunday when they would come to those prayer groups. Cora said she's not sure if Tiffany shared the abuse allegations with the rest of the group or not. She said she never saw, now I think this is really important. Cora said she never saw any documentation until after they were arrested. She said she saw documents on the custody battle. But she said during this time frame that Tiffany was saying that these kids were being horribly abused, Cora never saw any kind of court documentation, no proof of it. She just took Tiffany's word for it. Do you want to add anything to that, Tara? And I can mute. Okay. Yeah, I think that we got the echo taken care of, you guys. Sorry, because we're sitting in the same room, and so we just have to mute each other when we're not speaking. All right. So Cora and CW would babysit the Veronica's kids every Wednesday and Sunday when they'd have their get-togethers. So then she never saw any documentation. But around August of 2023, Tiffany confided in Cora that she couldn't afford to fight Veronica in court anymore, which I found pretty interesting. She said Tiffany was starting to have financial issues at that time. And in early 2024, Tiffany, as we know, fired her attorney because she didn't think he was getting any results for her. Cora said that she knew Tiffany had court hearings coming up in April regarding the custody of the kids. She said that Tiffany would take the kids to Hugoton for visits that were supervised once a week on Saturdays for about 10 hours or so. And so Tiffany would take the kids to Hugoton so they could see their mother for a supervised visit. Tiffany had been using Cheryl Brune as a supervisor. Bruni, sorry, I always do that. Cheryl Bruni as a supervisor for those visits. But if Tiffany chose not to use Cheryl at any certain point, then Veronica would be required to provide her own. And that plays out when this horrific murder happened. The whole Cheryl Bruni not being there, and Jilian being the stand-in. All right. Do we want to check on the chat here? How are we doing there? Yep. So is that Bianca? You think that is that guy's channel? I'm interested in checking that out.
The guy's channel.
Uh huh.
There's actually a whole TikTok, and hopefully people can hear me into either your mic or mine.
You're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
To help. So if hopefully everybody can hear me now. There is a TikTok channel. As I started looking into David Straight, there's a TikTok channel where you can see him giving seminars, classes, something of that nature. There's a lot of individuals who are following that channel and providing their own testimony as to how they became American state nationals and what it means to them, that sort of thing. There's not something I found immediately in a short, quick research that shows he has a specific channel himself, but it sounds like it's something that's just American state national blended. So a little more research to be done on that to see what's going on. And it's not David Straight, it's Daniel Straight. I keep messing it up too, but I think it's Daniel Straight. So there's more to come on that. Some of the stuff I found on there, we knew. It was surprising to hear in court that despite the information that we saw in court documents, Paul Grice is not a considered American state national because he did not complete the process. So that's something to be aware of, as though we did all that research several months ago, but he's not considered to have completed the process. Correct. Betsy.
Betsy Ross said Wrangler is out. Oh, so sorry about that. Tiffany was running out of money, and she had this custody battle looming with Veronica. Now, keep in mind, Tiffany didn't even have custody of the children. Wrangler had custody. So, but Tiffany was fighting really hard for custody over them. But she was running out of money, and she was having a lot of financial problems. So Tiffany asked Cora. Cora said it was after August of 2023 that Tiffany asked Cora to visit one day after school. And during that visit, she told Cora that she needed to get rid of Veronica. Cora said she interpreted as she was going to kill her. And that's just how she took it. I think people might be behind in the chat. I'm not sure, but hopefully everybody can hear me right now. So at this point, Cora hangs her head low when she's discussing how Tiffany asked her, or told her that she needed to get rid of Veronica. And there was no misinterpretation because Cora said on the stand that she interpreted it as that Tiffany was going to, kill her. She didn't mention anything to law enforcement at that time. Cora did not. She didn't say a word. And then there was an incident that they called, or Cora called, a call to arms with Tiffany Adams. And in that incident, Tiffany called Cora and said that Wrangler and his girlfriend at the time, I'm not sure who that might have been, but they were bringing law enforcement and taking the kids from the house. So Tiffany's terrified, saying that Wrangler and his girlfriend are coming to the house to remove the children from her. And she was very upset about this. Now, like I said, Tiffany never had custody of the kids. Wrangler did. And Tiffany basically financed Wrangler. And these are Cora's words. Tiffany financed Wrangler, but he turned on her. For those of you in the chat saying that you cannot hear, you're behind in the video. I was muted very briefly, so you'll hear me in just a second. So Tiffany wanted all Cora and all them at the house as witnesses, I guess. So Cole, Cora, Tad, Paul, and once again Barrett and Lacey Cook. Everyone got together at Tiffany's house. Cora said everybody was armed, heavily armed, including extra ARs that were brought by Tad and Paul. CW, unfortunately, was there as well, according to Cora. Wrangler and his girlfriend showed up, and Cimarron County deputies, the sheriff, a city cop came. Cora said there was lots and lots of yelling and screaming in the driveway, and then eventually Wrangler and his girlfriend left. She says that they were going to keep the kids from going anywhere. So Tiffany did not want those children going anywhere. She refused their own father, who did have custody of them, and she was able to get away with that. Debbie said, "Who are the cooks again?" I'm sorry, I forgot and missed that part. So the cooks are Lacey and Barrett Cook. They were a part of the God's Misfits group. They were very close friends with all 5 of the accused. They babysat Veronica's children, things like that. So very, very close, and you're going to hear them a lot come up through all of this. So then Cora goes on to say that this event, this call to arms, it drew her and Tiffany closer together. Weird, right? But it did. And then in February of 2024, Cora said that Tiffany came to her with a plan to get rid of Veronica. And she wanted Cora to help her. And instead of running to law enforcement or saying, "Oh, hell no, what is wrong with you?" Cora said she told her, Tiffany, that they needed to do what they needed to do to keep the kids safe. Tiffany Adams hadn't presented still at this point any actual plan to Cora yet on how they were going to, quote unquote, get rid of Veronica. So the gathering for which was it? The gathering for the call to arms, she said was, well, she didn't give a date on that. It was in February of this year when Tiffany went to Cora with a plan to get rid of Veronica. And then the cooks, yes, the cooks did have the children the night before it happened into the next morning. Yeah, Cora could have stopped it right from the start. Absolutely, she could have. Randy said, "Are you going to go over tomorrow's court after it's done?" Yes, and hope we'll have a lot less technical difficulties. We'll just do it this way from the start. So sorry about that. Okay, now where was I again? Okay, they would need to do whatever they needed to do to keep the kids safe. That was Cora's response. Cora said that Tiffany knew that Cora cared deeply about the kids. Cora said she has known Paul since he was a little kid. She was very close to his sister, to Paul's sister in high school, and she also had known Tad since high school. She said she doesn't remember discussing like any other options other than murder with Tiffany. So when Tiffany brought up, we got to do something about this, she can't have the kids, these kids are being abused, we got to get rid of her. There was never any other option that was brought up, like, can we do this instead of murder? Nope, that didn't happen. Tiffany went to Cora and said that she had a plan to make it look like an accident, like something had bounced off of a truck, and Tad was going to throw it. Tiffany was going to let everyone know where Veronica was, and Cole and Cora would be on the road. So the original plan was to throw what CW said in the court documents as an anvil. Cora actually called it. Do you remember what she called it?
She called it a vice.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Cora called it a vice, but they were going to throw it out of the back of the truck, hope it would hit Veronica's window, cause an accident, and they'd be all in the clear and they get rid of Veronica. Then she said January or February of this year, they were cleaning up trees at home, and Tad came over to help. And when he did, he brought the vise that they were going to use. Tiffany wanted them to practice with this vise on hay bales. So Cora was driving a truck, and Tad was throwing it off the back of the truck at these hay bales to practice.
Well, they didn't actually practice. Cora said that Tiffany left them with the vice, telling them to practice, but Cora stated they did not practice because Tad said he didn't feel like they needed the practice.
That's right. Tad did say he didn't feel they needed the practice, but that was the plan. Tad was going to be in back of the truck, and they were going to throw it off there at these hay bales for their practice. But yes, Tad did say that he didn't think they needed to. So Tiffany didn't stay to watch. They were going to use Cora's 91 Chevy half-ton because it did not have GPS. Tiffany, and like I said, I'm just going in order of what was said in the courtroom. So some of it seems a little bounced around, and it really kind of was at times. Tiffany bought the burner phones, so they weren't going to take their own cell phones with them. They were going to leave them at home or wherever, and Tiffany bought the burner phones. In February 28th of this year, she said Tiffany and Tad had burner phones, so they could leave or let the others know when Veronica, knew Veronica was going to leave home because it was her birthday. So February 28th of this year was Veronica's birthday. So that's a date that they planned it because they thought for sure she was going to leave home and go celebrate, right? Well, that got kind of messed up. So they did discuss that Veronica's fiance could possibly be with her, but if so, the plan would not change. So had Veronica gone somewhere the night of February 28th or the day of on her birthday and taken her fiance with her, they had no problem in taking him out right along with Veronica. She went on to say that CW found out what they were doing. And she asked Cora, CW asked Cora, her mother, what they were talking about. And so Cora told her the situation. And CW also saw the vice.
There was a story out there at one point that it was supposed to be an anvil or an anvil hammer, remember? But Cora, the Buddy Leach, the district attorney, questioned Cora on this thing, on the idea of an anvil versus a vice, and Cora said CW didn't realize what they were talking about was a vice, not an anvil. CW kept calling it an anvil, but it wasn't an actual anvil, it was a vice. So apparently there's a difference in between the two.
All right, I keep losing my spot. Okay, so Cora said so CW saw the vice. Cora said she believed CW knew the plan to kill Veronica. Cora told her what the plan was. when CW asked her. She said CW knew when they were going to implement the plan. So not only did Cora's young teenage daughter kind of figure out what was going on, Cora even told her what they planned on doing. And then, and so from there I go on. Cora and Tad were driving her half ton. Tad had, let's see, Tad had a burner phone, but Cora didn't. Cora said she never saw Tiffany Adams. She was just, and this is at the day of the birthday in February in Hugoton. Cora never saw Tiffany. She was just supposed to let them know where Veronica was that day or evening. Tad and Cole were then to meet Veronica on the road and throw this vice. Tad was going to throw it from the back of the truck into her windshield. She went on to say that Veronica left, but she only went to a friend's house. So their plan was spoiled. And so what did they do? They went to Barrett and Lacey Cook's for supper on a Wednesday night. She's asked if Cole was aware of all of this. And Cora said, she says he knew that she was going to be gone. So she just assumed he knew what she was doing. So basically, Cora did not admit on the stand that, yeah, I told my husband what I was doing. She kind of went about it in a roundabout way, saying, well, he knew I wasn't there, so I assume he knew what I was doing. Interesting. Then around 10:25 to 10:45, we took a quick break. We come back in, and they continued on after February 28th, the date that they failed the first time. CW asked if it was successful, and Cora told her no. So then a new plan was developed. At the meetings, Cora and Tiffany would go outside to a vehicle or someplace private away from the others to discuss their new plan. Cell phones were discussed, and they weren't to have their cell phones with them, even when they were discussing what the new plan was. So at their meetings, the cell phones were left behind while they'd go outside to a truck or whatever it might be and discuss this stuff. And she said around March 30th, around March 30th, Tiffany went to Cora and said that she had a new plan, that on a Saturday when she comes to get the kids, she would have a horse trailer and then lure Veronica into that trailer and murder her then. Cora's role was to sit and wait for Veronica to come by, pick up whatever cell phones that they had there, the burner phones, pick those up. So she was dispose of those burner phones and then take Tiffany Adams home. So that was kind of not very clear. Cora's role in all of this, in the plan with Tiffany, was to sit and wait for Veronica to come by, to pick up the burner cell phones from the site at the scene, and then to take Tiffany Adams on home afterwards. So hopefully that's a lot clearer. And that was on March 30th. They would later add and discuss more details of the plan. The new plan was going to take 4 people, and those 4 people were to be Tad, Paul, Tiffany Adams, and Cora. She said that she was not present when Paul was recruited by Tiffany. The 4 of them did continue to meet on Wednesdays and Sundays. Yes, sorry. March 30th is a date, the date that happened that I had written in my side thing. Sorry about that. So then the 4 would meet on Wednesdays and Sundays. They all discussed the little details such as, the burner phones, whose trailer they were going to take, things like that. Cora was supposed to provide the older truck because, of course, her trucks were old. They didn't have GPS. wait for the car, Veronica's car, to go by, let everybody know, and then go pick up the cell phones, put them in, what did I write there? Put them in a box, and I have more detail on that in a minute. Put them in a box so they couldn't be traced, and then take Tiffany home. Cora was supposed to follow Veronica from Elkhart. So Cora, Cole, Tad, and Tiffany all had the burner phones to start with. Tiffany was to get Veronica and Jilian into the trailer, the horse trailer, by luring them under the guise that Veronica's children were in there. Cora did not know that Jilian would be there at the time. So let that sink in. Tiffany Adams was going to use her grandchildren, Veronica's children, as a way to lure their mother and Jilian into this horse trailer so they could get rid of them. Look at the comments real quick. CB, thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And if you got a membership from CB, those last for a month, and then it's up to you if you want to renew it or not. So please let him know. Thank you if you got one from him. So Daniel said, do we really believe all this planning occurred and Cole still isn't part of the narrative? Well, wait till we get to Paul's testimony. Run for Justice. Thank you to Kari and Tara for your hard work and time away from families to work on this case. Thank you so much. And Babbitt5 said, not buying Cora's testimony. So a membership is just a very easy way to support the channel. I think the membership started at like 99 cents a month, but it's like an automatic deduction every month until you cancel it. So, all right. Do you have anything to add, Tara?
No, I mean this particular testimony was led by the district attorney, Buddy Leach. So very slow taking, a lot of back and forth, a lot of repeat information. Once you think, just as you think you're going forward with information, he's backtracking to, all right, well, let's go back to this. And what was this doing? And you said this and you did that. So a lot of repeat questions. So it was a little hard to follow, but we're getting there. We're getting to the things you guys are looking for. So just hang tight.
Yeah, I want to give you guys everything that we wrote down, everything I wrote down, so that you're not just getting tidbits or a biased view. This is like, these are her words, and so I want you to have the full story. And Guinea Pig said, so while Cora is testifying, is Paul in the room as well? No, because Paul had waived his preliminary and everything. He was not in the room at the time. They wound up bringing him in when Cora's testimony was over. So no, they didn't watch each other's testimony. All right. So carrying on, Tiffany was going to lure them into the trailer under the guise that the kids were in there. Cora said she did not know that Jilian would be there at the time. Once lured into the trailer, the plan was that Paul or Tad was to kill her. After that, they were going to bury them in a hole that they had dug. Cora said she knew where the piece of grass, so that's what they call it out here, piece of grass, the land. She knew where the area on the land was, where that hole was. She had been there a few times. She said they were to bury them in a freezer so that nothing could dig them up. They were going to put hay over it so that the cows would stomp on the hay and prevent anyone from finding it. The blue flatbed pickup borrowed from Cole's cousin Clint was used to pull that horse trailer. And the trailer was Tiffany Adams' trailer. So I think there for a long time we didn't really know whose trailer that belonged to. We just had learned through the documents that the trailer was found on Twombly's farm, right? And a lot of people accused Clint and what have you, but no, that was Tiffany's trailer. Cora said she doesn't know where the freezer came from. The skid steer was Tad's to dig the hole and fill the hole in, and the hay was also Tad's. She said that Tiffany bought the stun guns. Cora and Paul had one, and she's assuming that Tad and Tiffany had one as well, but she said she was not sure. Yeah, CB Slinger. Clint said he didn't own the trailer. He didn't know who owned the trailer. That's correct.
In the state of Oklahoma, trailers don't have to be registered, which is why it didn't matter the trailer they used. It mattered the vehicles they used, because you don't have to register those trailers in the state of Oklahoma.
So then Cora said that they needed someone to watch for law enforcement from the south. What was that? South. So Cole was the one to watch it from the south, correct? Okay. So Cora asked him to watch take Tad's pickup. The back of the hay. I can't read my notes here, you guys.
It's one of those things.
They're like really tiny.
Yeah, at this point in time, your hands start cramping out because we're well into 2 hours of testimony at this point. So they needed somebody to look out from the south, because part of Cora's role and responsibility was to look out from the north. And that because they, eventually it would be that either Tad or Paul would kill Veronica, because Tiffany was going to lure her into the trailer. Because at this time, we're still a week out from the murder, and the folks don't know. Only Tiffany knows that there's going to be 2 women, but Tad probably knew. Cora didn't know there was 2 of them. And later we find out Paul's understanding of that. But at this point in time, Cora thinks there's just 1 female coming down. She presumed there might be a supervisor, but she was not sure on that. And so the truck, let me see here. Tad was driving Clint's truck, and then Cora was, this is so confusing, right? Because there was a big truck switch. Ultimately, whose truck, the owners of each truck were not driving their own trucks that day. That adds to the WTF-ery of all of this, because Cole was driving Paul's truck and Cora had her truck, and then the flatbed, which I believe was Clint's flatbed, yes, was used. And then we have another truck with the trailer on it. So there is a whole litany it was between that and the cardinal directions they were using. It was hard to keep track, but Cole was recruited to stand lookout at 4 Corners, ultimately using Paul Grice's truck. Kari's on mute trying to figure out where she was.
I'm trying to read with like really little light.
All right. When you make up your own shorthand, you're like, I'll know what this means later. And you get to later, like, damn it, what does this mean?
Yeah, they're pretty horrible. Okay, so Tad drove the truck and trailer to the burial site. She said that they had discussed 4 Corners, but they didn't want to be on the main highway. So I guess they had discussed 4 Corners as the site or scene of, where they were going to do the crime. So they chose between Elkhart and 4 Corners instead. Once Veronica was in the trailer, deceased, Tad then takes the truck and trailer and he heads to the burial site. Tiffany was then going to get her grandchildren, Veronica's children, from the Cooks. So it's weird how like they're just gonna go about their little life, you know. Tiffany's just gonna go to the cooks, and it's just so weird. Cole was to go to Tad's and pick up Tad's feed truck and switch vehicles. So like Tara was saying, yeah, there's a lot of like switching vehicles, kind of weird, and that was hard to keep up with. But at this point, Cole is driving Paul Grice's truck. Cora said she didn't know what was to be done with the trailer. Well, we now know that the trailer ended up on Clint Twombly, Cole's cousin's. Well, it's their whole family's farm. So Bojangles, yeah, and so what I'm told by them is that it was not abnormal at all for Cole to, borrow and even keep a truck for a while. It was like normal behavior. So, if you have a brother or sister or cousin and they normally borrow those kind of things for farming, you probably wouldn't think much of it, I don't think. I need a quarter for the lamp. That's that's the truth. And again, I just want to tell you guys, thank you so much. There's 1,184 people in here. So thank you so much for spending this time with us, caring enough about this case and about getting justice for Veronica and Jilian that you're here with us this evening. We really appreciate it. I know the families do as well. All right. So Cora didn't know what was to be done with the trailer. The decision for the fifth person, because at this point we only have the four, right? The decision for the fifth person, Cora said, was made the weekend before March 30th.
It's a week out because just to be clear, because it was 1 week before March 30th of the murders is what they were trying to put out there in court today. That's when they decided to pull Cole into it.
Yeah, the weekend prior. Yep. She said she found out that Jilian would be present the day prior. So Cora's trying to say that she did not know Jilian would be present with Veronica until the day before the murders happened. She said they met the Wednesday prior at the cook's house for supper. She said that this is the first time that Cole was present, and he finds out what his responsibilities are. And of course, Cole agrees to them. She hangs her head once again. She hangs her head low. And Cole, I was looking at him, and he was just kind of staring off. Cora said they never discussed any options other than killing Veronica. And the DA said it multiple times, like, was there anything else discussed? Did you have any other ideas or plans other than just killing her? And she said no, there was never anything discussed. Cora said she then finds out that Tiffany knew Jilian would be there and that Tiffany had withheld that information from everyone.
Well, she claims she found that out in court at the moment when Buddy told her, supposedly. So that's something important that she claims at the time of this whole occurrence, the day before the murders, that's when the groups, Cora specifically, found out Jilian would for sure be there. But Buddy, the district attorney, tells her during her testimony, you didn't know that Tiffany knew the Wednesday before the murders that Jilian would be there. And Cora says, not until right now. I call shenanigans on that a little bit because we've been talking to these people for a few months. This is the first of her hearing just for a personal side view. But that is what Cora said in court, that was the first time she was hearing it, that Tiffany knew a few days beforehand versus that day before.
Yeah, and she was like, she acted like she was pretty upset about it. I thought, like, she was like, I got screwed over kind of thing. Uncomfortably Numb, thank you so much for becoming a new member. I appreciate that very much. And yes, Tiffany is far, far from a grandmother. She is a monster. and I'm trying hard to keep up with your comments. And if we overlook any, it's not intentional. I'm really sorry.
This one here, the cooks were there when they discussed. All we can report today is what we heard in testimony. That very well may be. I'm skeptical of what Cora believes she didn't know. This is where Kari and I differ, which is totally fine. We're allowed to differ. The holy cow, I turned my damn phone off. It's not acting like it's off. For Cora to not know, given the amount of time she's had with all these individuals, and she just now found out in court today that Tiffany knew the Wednesday prior to about Jilian, or at least a supervisor being there, but that's where Cora found out. I call shenanigans on that. But she's also the one that said only us 4 or us 5 talked about this away from the group. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's a pretty big, thick, chunky horse pill to swallow. I don't know, but that's all we can tell you today is the testimony that we heard. We can go back and forth and have a fun debate about it later, though, for sure.
Yeah, in Lalia World, she's saying that was supposed to be a question. She put a period, not instead of a question mark, so it's just meant as a question. She said, "Sorry, no big deal, no big deal at all." Yep said we can't verify it through testimony. Cora may be minimizing certain aspects as a preservation tactic, not even legally but mentally. And I do think that you're correct on the especially minimizing. We'll hear a little bit more, but I think she really was trying to minimize Cole's role. Did you feel that way too, Tara?
That she was minimizing.
Yeah.
I think she knew. I do. So I think there's a reason why Buddy probably questioned her, and the other member of the district attorney team questioned Paul, because they're very different lines of questions, very different format. So I think this was a strategic move. I definitely think she was trying to. I think she's trying to protect Cole there a little bit. I wouldn't put any doubt to that.
Yeah, I do too. All right. So moving on, Cora said that they met the day before the murders on Friday, March 29th in the early morning hours. And they went to the site even where Veronica was to be killed. So these people drove to the site the day before. Some of this was just so mind blowing. This was Tad's idea. It was Tad's idea to drive to the site so that they all knew where they were going to be, practice, the roles and what have you, so that there were no mistakes. She said, Cora said she picked everyone up at Tad's house and they drove there. Again, Cole is not present, according to Cora. So he wasn't present for this practice run, I guess you'd say. They met at the S curve that morning. The crime scene, I'm not even going to say that because it's not a big deal. Well, the crime scene is on Highway 95 by Yarborough School, where Veronica graduated, about 5 miles away from the school that Veronica graduated from.
What they were trying to do there was identify that 2-track road that was reported by the media. But to the rest of the world, it's a 2-track road, but to the people there who locally understand it, it's called a correction curve.
Yeah.
So when 2 sections and they need to try to fiddle around those, that's what they spent. Buddy spent the district attorney spent quite a few questions identifying the correction curve and from section to the section and what happens here in this direction. He was very, very thorough, but it was a lot. It's almost like fluff for a moment, it seemed like, but we have it. I wrote it all down. It was there. You good? Did your mic?
Yeah, I have to unmute my mic every time. So I'm I'm delayed. I'm delayed all the time. Lori W became a new member. Thank you very much. And yeah, Misty said the street that they were detoured on was the same road that led to the house Veronica grew up in while in high school. Man, that's so sad.
If I understand correctly, Veronica's car was found approximately 2 miles from where she grew up.
That's sad. Okay, so yeah, there's the correction line. So Cora said that they used that correction line, or the S curve as we know it, because Veronica was familiar with it and the area. She said Tad and Paul didn't want to use firearms because they didn't want them to be traced. No discussions were had, according to Cora, regarding gloves. They just all wore them. So that wasn't
So
part of the plan.
did you find that, was that, you know, when you're telling a story, like it's an after the fact, it's a serious story at the time, you go back to tell it and it kind of gets kind of funny, like, oh, I should have done that. Like it's really serious. Like, but this is what Cora did to this story today, is that she's telling this story. It's very serious. And they're asking, were you guys told to wear gloves? Were you guys told to wear hoodies? Were you guys told? She's like, oh no, we just wear gloves because that's what we all do. Ha ha. And it's just like, probably not the place. Like it seemed inappropriate for that little funny giggle, but she almost treated it like no big deal. And I get it was like a brain break for her, I presume. But that's how she treated it when they're like, you just wore, every one of you wore gloves. Well, I guess that's just what we're used to. Hee hee. Just kind of unnerving type of stuff, and really weird to see. I'm not typical in the courtrooms though, so this is my first one, but maybe it's normal.
Oh, Misty, that's cool. KC, they may have been at the Cookso because I'm pretty sure, yeah, the kids spent the night there. Yeah, it was just weird about the glove thing. I don't know. That was weird. So she said clothing was not discussed either. And this is when Tiffany told Cora that Jilian, a second person, she just said a second person though. I wrote Jilian in parentheses, so I think the way it was said, that this is when Tiffany Adams told Cora that a second person would be there. This was a surprise to Cora. Someone asked, what about the supervisor? And Tiffany said it was collateral damage because the supervisor did nothing to help the kids. She says they all had a problem with the second person dying, but, quote unquote, that was the plan.
Yeah, the she would have to die too. That second person would have to die too.
Yep, because that was the plan. Okay, so she goes on. In order to prepare for their plan, they needed a trailer, freezer, and a hole was to be dug up the day before. They needed cell phones, those burner phones, a vehicle that's hooked to a trailer. And Cora said she believes that Tiffany had brought the stun guns on a Sunday and left them there at Cora and Cole's house. She goes on to say that CW knew Veronica was supposed to die the next day. So CW knew Veronica was supposed to die the next day, according to Cora, because Cora said she needed to borrow her pickup and had things to do, and she wouldn't be there in the morning. Tad, she said Tad was apprehensive about the plan when they went to see the site. He knew him and Tiffany would probably be the first suspects. So knowing they would probably be the first suspects made Tad a little bit nervous.
Yeah, he wanted it to be perfect. It has to be perfect. We're going to be the suspects. Everything has to go to plan. That was specific, that everything has to go to plan because we're going to be the suspects no matter what. So they were expecting to be considered first with all of this.
Yeah, back to that things didn't go as planned comment. You're right. Okay, so she's okay. Sorry, I had to figure out what my notes meant. Um, Cora said that Veronica's car was left there at the scene intentionally because they didn't know if it had GPS on it, and they had no place to put it. So that puts one huge rumor to bed, I believe. There was never a plan with the car. The car was always going to stay there.
The car also never moved. That is where it happened. That's where it stayed, and that's where it was found. It was never moved. And that was because that was part of the plan. Absolute.
Yeah, I'm just gonna call you Vixen. That's easier. So was Cora's entire demeanor through all of this very cavalier, without any kind of emotion whatsoever, and very matter of fact? Um, yeah, I didn't sense a lot of emotion. In fact, I had talked to Tara about that afterwards, that I was kind of surprised. Um, I don't know. I always think like from a mother and a grandmother kind of point of view, I guess. I would have been bawling my eyes out reliving all of this. It's possible that she's had to tell the story so many times now that she's kind of numb to it. That's possible. Maybe she's already done all I don't know. But on the stand, no, she was not very emotional. It was kind of just matter of fact for the most part. There were times, especially if her children were brought up, you get to see her kind of choke back a little bit, but that was about it. So, do we know if they wrote this plan down? I don't think so. I don't think so.
That never was said. It just seemed like it was just something verbal they shared on Wednesdays and Sundays every week.
Knoxville agent, we're going to get to Paul's testimony as soon as we finish this one. But yes, he was emotional. All right. So,
Yeah, we just got done with the car being left there intentionally. We're moving on to the burner phones, and because they were disposable, and from that point.
Yeah, she said there was no discussions of what to do with the trailer either that she's aware of. March 29th, 24, they met as a group. They dropped Clint Twombly's flatbed off at Tiffany's that evening. She said Cole drove it. So Cole drove that one. They left Clint's pickup in Tiffany's driveway, and they received their burner phones for her and Cole, as then they were going to be the lookouts. Cora said she assumes the hole was dug the day before. She also said CW generally knew what was going to happen the next day. She had seen the burner phones, and Cora had told her Tiffany gave them to them. Yep said, we mind me summarizing this info on a post? Absolutely not. Yep. You're Yep. You get to do whatever you want. But no, really. Yeah, that would be great actually if you would. I would appreciate that. And Leah said they were about as smart as a bag full of rocks, but I can only wish they'd been even dumber. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so then we're on to March 30th. And this is kind of rough. But so March 30th, she said Cora woke up that morning around 6 to 6:30. Supervisor also supposed to, okay, so the plan was the supervisor was also supposed to be lured into the trailer. Tad and Paul were then to kill the two of them. Tiffany lured them, was to lure them. Cora wasn't a part of discussions on how they were to be killed, but to be put in freezer, then the hole buried and covered up. So she knew that much. but she didn't know like what method they were actually going to use to kill them. She said Cole was taking one of Paul's trucks to go to Four Corners. Paul lived an eighth of a mile from Tad. I don't know why that was brought up, but it was. She said that when she got to Elkhart, she just kind of drove around, and then she went back and found a spot on the highway that she could sit and just kind of wait for Veronica to drive by. And how creepy is that? That's Cora said she carries a 9mm semi-automatic. They all carry. That's not strange for out here, though. It's not strange at all. She said she parked in on a dirt road. Only pickup, trailer, and Veronica's vehicle were to be at the crime scene.
She had a stun gun on her. She was given a stun gun, and it was with her at the time, too.
Yep. She said others took Clint's flatbed. She saw Veronica's electric blue SUV and called Tiffany to make sure it was the right car, and Tiffany said it was. So Tiffany asked Cora if there was anyone else around, and she said there was a dark hair, or if there was anybody else with Veronica, and Cora said there was a dark-haired lady in the car. There was also a truck behind Veronica's, and they did get kind of concerned about that truck. They thought maybe it's following Veronica or whatever, and it was going to, mess up their plan. But that truck, unfortunately, turned off. Cora said she pulled off on the east side of the correction line on the dirt road, going south, and then she turned back. I don't want to go into all this north, south, east, west with you guys because you might get as confused as I did in the courtroom. She said Veronica turned off on the dirt road going west, straight to where the crime scene was supposed to be. The truck and the trailer were parked at north-south road off of 95. Cora said she could see the top of the trailer and the top of the car. She saw two people running. Now consider that some of this is already transpiring. The crime is already transpiring. Cora, I believe, is like pulling up on it at that time, or she's getting out of the vehicle. I'm not sure. But she said she could see the top of the trailer and the top of the car. But she also saw two people running from the trailer to the car. And Cora thought things hadn't gone as planned because they were supposed to be in the trailer, right? Yes, trigger warning. This is going to give quite a bit more information on how the deaths occurred. So Cora then drove across the highway and pulled up behind Veronica's car. Cora is north of Veronica's car. She sees Paul and Veronica struggling on the ground. So she got out and went towards Paul between Veronica's car and the trailer. As she gets closer to them, Tiffany comes from an area of the trailer, and Cora said she didn't see Tad or Jilian at this point. Paul was asking for help with Veronica, asking in general, saying, I need some help. I need some help. Tiffany Adams handed Cora one of the burner phones, and Cora gave her taser. She said it looked like a flashlight, so that Tiffany could go help Paul. Cora was told by Tiffany to wrap the cell phones of Veronica and Jilian in a metal ammo can and then wrap them in tinfoil and then destroy them.
That was so they were to be wrapped in tinfoil and then put in the ammo can. She happened to bash them with the cinder block and then wrap them and then put them in the ammo can that she had in the truck with her.
Yes. So Um, yeah, so she's supposed to destroy them. Cora then got in Veronica's car and she got their cell phones out of the console. Cora then used a cinder block by Clint's truck and she destroyed the phones and then she took them back to her pickup. She said that she saw Paul on top of Veronica on the ground with his hands. You guys, this is gonna be hard. So whew. She's Cora saw Paul on top of Veronica on the ground with hands going up and down in what she assumes was him stabbing her. She said she couldn't see anything to the west of her because the trailer gate was open.
So the trailer gate was not supposed to be open, which Cora identified in court. The trailer gate was not, that wasn't the place or the time for that, but she didn't stop. She didn't question. She just kept going. She happened to notice it because it wasn't the right time for it. Okay. Jimmy, keep going. So Kari's going to take a second because it's hard information. This is hard because now we are in the heat of everything. And so Cora notices that the gate is open, which is why she can't see much beyond the trailer. She's not seen Tad Cullum and she's not seen Jilian Kelley at this time. She assumes that they are inside the trailer because she's not seen them. She continues to destroy the phones. She puts them in the ammo can. They're in the pickup. They identify, which direction is the pickup, which direction the phones, which direction did you move to get to the phones and wrap them. And so at this point in time, the prosecution presents exhibit number 7, which is a map identifying where the truck is at, the flatbed truck, the truck with the trailer, Veronica's vehicle. All this is put together in a map. They present that to Cora. She identifies that those locations they're good. They make sense. You can move one vehicle a little bit if you wanted to. She did state that the ammo can was behind the passenger seat of her pickup. That's how she knew where it was at to go get it. And then she mentioned that the trailer gate was open. It shouldn't have been open, but it was. So it blocked her view. She turned west. And like I said, they kept going back and forth. So my notes are a little repetitive here. But she saw at some point in time, she realized with the trailer gate open, again, this is difficult. So if you are a visual thinker, please be advised. The trailer gate was open. She could see the freezer near the opening. So the hinges of the freezer were facing the back side of the truck and that front side of that trailer. So the opening of the freezer would have been towards the opening of that gate. And she could see that Paul and Tad were attempting to load Veronica's body into the trailer. She also noticed that the trailer had been moved backwards. It looked as though it had been backed up to make it closer to Veronica's body before they tried to move her. So at that point, let me see here. They talk about, this is where the DA gets into Cora's vision or Cora's understanding of which direction were you going, which direction were you moving, east side, west side. He was very, very specific about all of this. Kari, you good? Do me give it back to you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, so Tara's notes kind of just follow mine as well, like they're her own notes, but it's in all the same order. So I don't know if you said about the freezer, Paul and Tad loading Veronica in the back of the trailer. You said all that, okay. Cora said that at this point she still had not seen a Jilian. She had not seen Jilian Kelley at this point. She said there were ratchet straps stretched out under the rectangle freezer. Cora turned around. She got a shovel off the flatbed, and Tiffany was upset because there was a lot of blood, and there wasn't supposed to be. So Cora covered it with the shovel with the dirt that was there. At this point, the gate of the trailer was shut, and Paul was inside of it. Cora said that Paul told her he had a cut on his finger and he needed tape. So Cora handed him duct tape through the slats of the horse trailer. Cora then finished putting dirt on the blood. Trailer pulled off. Tiffany turned off Veronica's car. So Veronica's car was running that whole time, and Tiffany went and turned it off. And then Tiffany got in, and they drove to Tiffany's house after all this was said and done. She noticed that Cora said she noticed that floor dry had been put on the blood after she put dirt on it. She didn't see who did it or where it came from. So that would explain like why Rock Chalk and I saw that out there, because we've shown you guys pictures and videos of that dirt road area there. In the vehicle, Tiffany said that things hadn't gone as planned and there was a lot of blood. She asked Cora to go to the burial site where Tad and Paul were and to calm them down. We're not sure what that meant, but Cora went inside. She said she called her daughter to see where she was. She changed her clothes, and when she changed her clothes, she put them in a bag and then stuck them under the floorboard in her closet. And then she went to find Cole. She said she met Cole on the road. He had left the trailer at Twombly's farm, and that is owned by corporation, family members, what have you. She said Cole started gathering clothes and shoes because he saw Paul and Tad had none, which this goes into more detail in Paul's testimony. So with that, 12:25 to 1:30, they had lunch, and I'm going to tell on myself, we didn't get back from lunch on time, you guys. We didn't. We were late. It was my fault. It was my fault. So we did miss a cross-examination.
She says we. That's the most accurate thing I heard today and all day long shenanigans.
So we did miss, unfortunately, the cross-examination. We had multiple people tell us kind of what went on, and it was kind of just going back over.
Yeah, it was back and forth again, just recovering the steps and whatnot. But I did receive a text that said part of what we missed is that part of Cora's plea deal is that CW doesn't have to testify, right? At trial, that she should be out entirely. And so I asked if that was absolutely accurate. This person felt very confident that's exactly what they heard. So CW may be out of the mix at this point. Is she out of the prelim? Don't know. I think this only applies to trial right now, but it looks pretty good for her.
I sure hope that's the case.
Hey, CB Singular Day, no joke, CB. No joke. We did that. We ordered her an extra sandwich tonight for dinner to take with us tomorrow.
It's going to be a green bologna sandwich for sure. I'm in trouble.
Dude, I've been mean mugging her all day long. But in a way, nice, sweet, loving way, because I adore her. I'd do anything for her, so including as part of a court deal. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, we'll move on to the comments. So Katie said part of the lady's testimony and deal was to protect her child, who she said knew it was going to happen. Yeah. Yep.
Ironic, no?
And there was another comment somewhere where Patrick would know, where was Cole during this? Do you mean when Cora's talking, or the last thing I said was that Cole had come back to the house. He needed to get clothes for Tad and Paul because they had no clothes. Hopefully that answered it. All right. And then
I think he might have been talking about where was Cole at during all the shenanigans of that day, and that is covered in Paul's testimony. So we are getting there. Hang tight.
yes, so we're there now because remember I was late. So now we're at 3:45 instead of 1:30. And the other thing I do want to say is I didn't see a lot of emotion from Cora while she was testifying. However, we were outside when they let her back out, and at that point, I could tell she had been bawling. I mean, she had nose drip going on the work, so she had been crying pretty heavily.
Yeah, she whatever happened during cross, she bent over a barrel for it. Looks like.
Yeah. All right. So Paul's testimony. Now, Paul's testimony, Cora's was difficult. Paul's was horrible. It was horrible. So he, in Paul's plea with the state of Oklahoma, his plea is for no death penalty. So the death penalty was taken off the table in exchange for him testifying on behalf of the state and turning state's witness. So we'll start at the beginning. Paul said he knew Cora when he was little. In 2023, they started meeting with them at Cora's home. They met Tiffany through Cole and Cora at their house. He said at first, it was just like friends hanging out, and then it turned into prayer meetings twice a week. Those prayer meetings. Sundays, those were at Cole's house, and Wednesday, again, they were at the Cooks. So some of this is going to be repetitive because Cora testified to the same things. He said that they would have supper and a prayer. There would be, around 15 adults approximately, lots of kids. He said the Cook's family, Barrett and Lacey Cook again, Clint and Frank Twombly. Frank is Cole's son. The Tapp family, Kenny Bob, Josh, Kenny Bob's cousin, Tiffany Adams, the grandkids, and of course Paul and his wife, and then their kids. He said before Christmas of 2023, when they started meeting, he had just moved back here to this area in September of 23. So he had left the area for a while, and he came back last year. He said that the group had a political side, of course, the American State Nationalists. We've gone over that multiple times in our lives. When asked to describe what American State National is, he said it's a form of freedom, an anti-government. They're anti-government. They teach you like how to run your businesses, and then PMAs, which are private members associations. I don't know what those are. Do you, Tara? And I hadn't had a chance to look anything up. So.
No, but we'll look into that
Okay.
more. It sounds like just to mind your own and do your own
Right.
and do your own business your way.
Again, he mentions the one named Cora did, but he mentions another. Bobby Lawrence and David Strait is where they got their info, and they got those from books that these men had written and websites. He said he saw David speak 2 times this year. He went to Oklahoma City, and then the first time, and then the second time it was around Claremore, Oklahoma. On the first trip to Oklahoma City to see David speak, he said he took Cora with him. The second time it was Cole, Cora, and Paul that went. Oh, sorry. Cole, Cora, Frank, Barrett, and Lacey, they went too. Paul and his wife. Paul said that he filed the papers with the courthouse. We've gone over those extensively as well, as did his wife and the Cooks and the Cook's oldest daughter, who's married to Frank Twombly. He said he did not achieve the state nationalist as he still had other things to do towards that. He then went on to say that Tiffany brought the grandkids to these meetings that they would have. Tad and Tiffany told him that the kids were being abused. So he testified that Tiffany said that she had a video admission of Veronica's brother admitting to a horrific,
Lewd acts.
yes,
Lewd
against the
acts.
boy.
Yep.
Against the boy. But he said he never saw. Oh, I gotta meet.
Well, so it unfortunately goes deeper than that. They're lewd acts with both of Veronica's children at a couple different times is what the videos are supposed to have. The video admission is supposed to have captured was this individual, Veronica's brother, confessing to extreme lewd acts, which was not well received in the courtroom because there was no evidence of it, and that's what they were getting to with that.
Right. He said that that he never saw this video evidence that Tiffany claimed to have. He never saw this. He never asked for it either. So he didn't even ask for this evidence. But also he said that Tad said he had a 26-page document in a safe at his mother's house. That too was never shared with Paul. And again, nor did he ask for it. So, yes, Connie. Yes. Oops. So, Paul went on to say that Tiffany would talk about how the kids were not in a safe environment. He said it came up many times. Usually, it was like one-on-one when Tiffany had Paul's undivided attention. I think manipulation when he was saying that. Between the five of them and their meeting twice a week, it was brought up, he said, every time. Every time they got together, these things were brought up. He said Tad didn't bring it up as much as Tiffany did. 2 times, Tiffany asked Paul if she could come to his house and talk with him. He said around early February of 24, she went to his house and they talked for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. She told him incidents that had happened with Wrangler and the kids regarding a bad environment and drugs being involved. Paul said that, Tiffany was always painting a bad picture of Veronica as a mother, but also as of her and Wrangler of their parenting as a whole. He believes that Veronica's last name is Butler. Now, that got some attention in the court because they asked, what is Veronica's last name? Did you catch that? And he goes,
Yep.
I think it was Butler.
I believe it's Butler. I believe it's like
Butler.
Yeah. You don't. Maybe he's not mentally anguished, but I don't know. That was kind of shaky for me.
Yeah, it was. He said the first meeting with Tiffany, she asked him if he would kill Veronica, and he said he would think about it. That's mind blowing. He said he'd think about it, and then quote, these are his words, quoted, "I had a lot of bitterness in me. It was my fault." That's what he said he said he would think about it. He said that Tiffany would give him Bible verses regarding like this, this kind of stuff, with an intent to manipulate him.
Yeah, he used 2, one from Matthew and one from Lucas, specifically targeting the safety of children. So she used these Bible verses to lure Paul to make him feel obligated. He figured out later on, looking back, that those Bible verses were twisted. He was deceived and he wasn't paying attention. that because the amount of hatred and bitterness he had in his heart, he was easily manipulated into the whole situation versus asking the questions, the exploratory questions to figure out if the actual events were true that she was speaking to.
No, you're fine. Please do. And I'm not being rude to Tara at all. She's always welcome to chime in and whatever. I'm muting my microphone each time, so it's taking me a minute to turn it back on. All right. So, yeah, he said, I had a lot of bitterness in me. It was my fault. And then there was the Bible verses. And then Paul said, word for word, he said, I fell for it. I fell for it. He said that Tiffany told him she thought he had the fortitude to get it done.
This is where it gets kind of creepy, I thought, where Buddy Leach is like, well, what impression did you give her to make her believe you had the fortitude for that? And he literally says that he told these people while drinking that he'd been a mercenary. He'd been a part of a mercenary group that protected kids.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. 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 I just,
yeah, Craig. Oh my gosh. I was muted. Yeah, so when Tiffany told him that she thought that Paul had the fortitude to get this done, he said he had an abusive upbringing. And his exact words were, I think she knew I had enough hate in my heart to get it done. I think she knew I had enough hate in my heart to get it done. Paul told them, this whole group, right? This is what Tara was just referencing. Paul told this group that he was part of a mercenary group that killed people to protect kids. And he talked about it often. But then he said it was all a lie. Every bit of that was a lie.
yeah, he said he would be drinking with adults. He told the adults he made sure the kids weren't around. But he said it was all lies, but he'd been drinking when he would tell those stories.
Yeah, I forgot about that. He said that there was quite a bit of drinking, and Tara and I have brought that up numerous times because we've been told that at these meetings, it was a lot of drinking. So if you can't hear us, it's because you're a little bit behind. Okay. I wanted to say, Sunset Girl, thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you, thank you. Let's see, Dog Mom. So be it may, they were brainwashed and lied to about how awful Veronica was. So what's her excuse? Right, for murdering an innocent woman. Jilian had nothing to do with any of it. Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said earlier, they were just like, well, it's the plan is the plan kind of thing. So they said they were kind of upset about it, but I guess it didn't make that big of a deal to them. All right, so we're at early March of 2024. Tiffany Adams came and told Paul that Veronica was getting full custody and that Tiffany did not have the money to fight her anymore. And it was at that point that Paul agreed to kill Veronica. He said nobody else was a part of that conversation. It was just him and Tiffany. Then he said the second time he talked to her, because remember, go back just a little bit, and I said there was 2 meetings that Tiffany asked Paul, to meet with her at his home. So the second time that he talked to her, Tiffany said that Tad and Cora had also agreed to help. Tiffany asked his input on the planning of all this, and he said he didn't have any ideas. She discussed as supervisor, and Paul said that he would kill Veronica, but nobody else. Tiffany told him she would make sure it wasn't her friend, meaning the Cheryl Bruni girl lady. She would make sure it wasn't her friend that would be supervising. Tiffany, these are more Paul's exact words. He said, her exact words were, "It was a nobody," referring to Jilian. And that was so hurtful to hear.
The courtroom shifted verbally at that point. It was that was the first big. This leads into the rest of the trigger warnings that you're about to hear.
Okay. The plan became solid about 1 to 2 weeks prior to when it happened. Can the chat calm down, please, just a little bit? Let's be nice and respectful. He said they would have private conversations at prayer meetings, at Cole Twombly's or at the Cook's homes. Cole was not always at the meeting, so it goes back to Cora kept saying. So now Paul is saying Cole was not always at the meetings. The Wednesday before the murders, they all met at the Cook's house. And see, this is weird. They met at the Cook's house. They discussed the plan at the end of the Cook's driveway. So he made it clear about that. It wasn't inside their house. I think, he's implying they were not present. They discussed it at the end of the driveway. He doesn't remember if Cole was there when they discussed it. He said, but he was at least one of those meetings where they did discuss all this. Yeah, Dog Mom is saying that neither Veronica or Jilian deserve this, so please drop it. We're adults. That's silly. So then, a week prior, 4 of them drove to the location of the murders. Like Cora said, they, practiced this. They drove to the location of the murders in the early morning, and Tiffany explained the plan to lure them into the trailer, and Tad had a place to bury the evidence. And we're going to stop in here real quick and say, Kathy said, Jilian was an angel. She had a heart of gold. I did a lot of business with her and Heath, her husband, for the church. To call her a nobody is disgusting. Absolutely, Kathy. Thank you for that. Thank you. Everything we've heard about Jilian is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, you got to make sure you read a comment all the way. Sometimes it's a 2-part comment. So just, be careful, guys. Come on. All right. And then, Paul's job was, so his role, everybody had a role. Everybody had a job in this, right? Paul's job was to kill Veronica. Tiffany's job was to lure her and Jilian into the trailer. Tad's job was to kill Jilian. And Cora's job was to follow the others to location to make sure they weren't followed, and then also to get their phones. Veronica and Jillian's personal cell phones. He said that Tiffany brought up the tasers, and the tasers were meant to immobilize them to get them into the trailer if they didn't willingly go. So, if trying to lure them with the idea of the kids were in the trailer didn't work, then they had planned on using those tasers. Paul said he did have concerns about getting them into the trailer, and he had discussed these concerns with Tad. Now, do you guys remember there was a hammer, a broken hammer found, right, Tara? Wasn't it broken? Yeah. Okay, so if you remember, there was a broken hammer found. Paul said that the hammer was his idea. He was going to knock them in the head and knock them out with that hammer. He said that Tiffany said it did not matter how it happened. So, in other words, it didn't matter how they were killed, just to get it done, kind of thing. Paul said he did not know the burial site until the morning of the murders. He had talked to Tiffany and told her that he was nervous about all these things. He said that he learned Cole would be involved the night before at Four Corners as a lookout, bringing Tad's pickup with a hay bale to the location. He said he didn't know if there was any other involvement. Didn't know of any other involvement. Is that with Cole again? That morning, he was nervous. He said he got up around 3 a.m. Cole and Cora went to his house. They got to Paul's house around 8:15 that morning. Cora then left to go to Elkhart. Cole and Paul went to Tiffany's house, and they left Tiffany's house around 8:30 in the morning. He said that Tiffany's house is about 15 to 20 minutes away. At Tiffany's house, him and Cole hooked up Clint Twombly's truck to Tiffany Adams' trailer. Paul and Tiffany left and they headed east. Cole left to go to Four Corners. He drove Paul's truck. Paul was asked what he was wearing, and he said an American State black hoodie, lariat shoes, Wrangler jeans, I believe a ball cap, and a few others. I lost track. I didn't get them all written down. But those were all items that were discovered in the hole, so that's why that was asked. He said he brought a hammer, a knife, and a pistol to the scene. He also had that stun gun.
He forgot his stun gun at home, so Tiffany gave him another one. Oh, so kind of filling in. So he didn't have a stun gun. He forgot it at home that morning. He was really nervous and upset. He had his 1911 45 millimeter with him. He had that rusty ball peen hammer with him. And so Tiffany gave him another stun gun. And then they go to the crime scene. Tiffany is driving. They get... Oh, let's see. They pick up Tad in a field somewhere. It's about 2 miles east of Road 54. And TA stays... Oh, so TA... So I'm reading my notes here. That's all in their initials. Shorthand. Yes, extreme shorthand, yes. So Tiffany tells Paul to stay in the trailer because she doesn't want Veronica or Jilian to see anybody. She doesn't want anybody to see any strangers and scare them off. So they position Paul in the trailer because his role, Paul's role, is to attack and kill Veronica. There was questions as to whether or not Tiffany called anybody in the cab of the truck while Paul was in the truck with her. He did recognize that Tiffany talked with Cora, and he knew that because he could hear Cora's voice. He also said that Veronica was called twice, and while he couldn't hear Veronica's voice, he did hear Tiffany say Veronica on both of those calls. Now Tiffany talked with Cora when Cora was somewhere between Elkhart and the crime scene. And at this point in time, Cora is using her burner phone, but it sounds like Tiffany may have had her personal phone on her, maybe. I'm not sure. That wasn't really made clear despite all the other clarities that were made. Paul did identify that he left his personal phone at home. They picked Tad Cullum up. And then when Paul was asked as to why he left his phone at home, Paul simply said he wanted to avoid his phone giving up the location. He did not want his phone associated with that location.
Yeah, they all were leaving their phones at home for that reason. Get to Ducking Point. No, there was nothing about a broken handsaw, and it was a broken hammer. Hammer. Yeah, so like Tara just said, that's kind of where my notes went too. I don't know if she mentioned, but he did say that Tiffany told Paul to stay in the trailer. That way, Veronica and Jilian would not see a stranger there. And yeah, Tiffany talked to Veronica a couple times, as well as Cora. Paul said he also talked to Cora as well, using one of those burner phones. And we probably have maybe 30 minutes left, if that, you guys. So thank you so much for hanging in there with us. We're still 12:39 strong, so I appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please hit the like button. That just makes it to where more people see the video. It's factual information. We want people to hear the facts of this case. So at Rodell, at the scene, they pulled off into the grass. The trailer is facing the south and parked on the right-hand side of the road. Paul said he got out of the truck. He walked around for a little bit, visualizing like where the women might park and what they might do. Tiffany Adams talked to Veronica and told her where they were and to pull in behind the trailer. Tiffany told Paul to get inside the trailer. So he did. And he says, these were exact words, I was losing my mind mostly. I was losing my mind. Mostly, I was scared. He said that he could see the freezer and the brand new yellow ratchet straps. He could see out through the slats in the trailer, and he was crouched down inside of it. Tiffany told Veronica that the kids were in the trailer petting a calf. And Paul was inside the trailer. He had a taser in his left hand, and he had a hammer in his right. And so here we go into some details of how things happened. So Veronica leaned inside the door of the trailer, and Paul attacked her by trying to shock her with the taser first. He then hit her with the hammer a couple of times. He hit her on the right and top side of the head. He said she started moving from the trailer, and he let her. He hit her with the hammer. He chased her and tried to shock her because she started running, but he shocked himself instead, which that was quite funny. But then he tackled her, and he tackled her right in front of her car at the back of the trailer. He said Tad and Tiffany were grabbing Jilian. They were both screaming. He heard a fainting scream and then a gasp from Jilian. He said he didn't know what to do, and so he started stabbing her. He said he was trying to get her throat, and she was fighting him. yet he testifies that he was scared. He said he cut his finger, so he yelled at Cora for help. And Jilian was loaded into the trailer. He said he doesn't know who loaded her, but that it had to be Tad and Tiffany. He said Tiffany was walking in a circle around them, laughing with the most evil laugh. If you guys didn't catch that. When this was said and done, he says Tiffany was walking in a circle around them, laughing with the most evil laugh. At this point, as you can imagine, there was a lot of crying from family, from everybody, really, in the courtroom. And the judge had to ask that emotions be controlled, or people would be escorted out if you didn't feel you could handle it emotionally, to please leave and then come back in later. Nobody was escorted out, and nobody left, to my knowledge. He goes on to say that Veronica quit fighting him. He stood up for a moment and he fell on the ground a few feet away from her. He said Tad walked over from the trailer and Tiffany backed the trailer up closer to the body. And him and Tad loaded Veronica. They loaded Veronica. They had to push the freezer up a bit. He said Tad lifted her head, Paul lifted her legs, and they sat her on the back of the trailer. Paul then got inside the trailer, and somebody shut the door on him. And if you remember earlier, Cora said the same thing, that door was shut on Paul. He said the next thing he knew, they were leaving. And Tiffany and Cora were behind them for a while in truck. He said that Cora had bandaged his finger with duct tape inside the trailer. He saw Jilian laying on her back with her head facing to the rear of the trailer. He said she was motionless at first, but then he thought he started seeing her eyes fluttering as they went down the road. He said he was touching her. He was trying to figure out if she was alive or not. He said he started to feel that he had been set up. And his exact words were, "I felt I was the only one with blood on my hands." He said he was scared and he didn't know what to do. He started having panic attack, thinking, Jilian would be terrified if she were to wake up in that freezer. So, thinking that she possibly might not be deceased yet, he decided that he was just going to stab her in the throat a few times and then drag her to the freezer. The following Sunday, after this happened, the five of them were out by themselves, and Tad told Paul that he tried to break Jillian's neck, but that Tiffany said that Jilian was at a weird angle to get a break, so Tad was unable to break her neck. So, just listen to that closely. Tad says he was unable to break her neck. Paul was not sure if she was deceased or not, so he went on to stab her. They stopped once before they went to Beasley's property. As you know, that is where Tad buried the bodies. Paul said he had been at the Beasley's property several times. He said Tad opened the trailer. And when Tad opened the trailer, Paul didn't know who it was, so Paul pulled a gun on him, not knowing who it was. Did you want to say something, Tara?
Yeah, Paul had said at one point that he was afraid. Let me make sure my notes, because they're kind of shifty, it seems like. Okay, so when Paul at one point felt like he'd been set up. He was afraid when he was in the trailer with Veronica and Jilian that he had been set up. He thought he'd been lied to. And so at some point in time, he said, and this is where that testimony kind of jumps around, right? He at some point in time he told Tad and Cora and Cole, all three of them at the same time. He said that Jilian had woke up while they were en route to the burial site, and that she went for his gun, that she attacked him, and that's when Tad said, "Well, that's more credit than he gave her because she didn't give him much of a fight." Cora was speechless about that thing, and then about that, and then Cole was kind of cursing, and then Tiffany didn't think much of it. So that was something that he had said right before when he talked about going to Beasley's property, that he thought he'd been set up. When all was said and done, he realized he was the worst of the bunch. He looked like the worst of the bunch, and he felt like he had done the most work of anybody. So he felt like he was the one they were going to pin everything on at some point.
Dog Mom says so they didn't die by their car. I mean, well, the trailer was right there by the car. So, but no, they were put into the trailer, but Paul did wrestle with Veronica outside by her car, and Cora recalls seeing his arm go up and down as if he was possibly stabbing her. So it would have been outside the car and in the trailer. Paul was the only person who actually took life. No kidding, he was set up. He should not be allowed to make a deal. This is infuriating. The autopsy report says her neck was broken. Yeah, so and we didn't read that here, but that is correct, Patrick. And I think that Tad probably just didn't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm sure, when they go over the autopsy report and the actual trial, then all of that's going to be brought up.
Well, and it's got to be remembered that Paul didn't say anything about in his testimony. Now that we're heading into Beasley's property and the burial, Paul never mentioned seeing Jillian's blood or seeing Jillian's wounds. He just saw Jilian injured to the point of he wasn't sure if she was alive or not. But Veronica has been loaded. Her blood is in the trailer. So Paul may or may not realize that there's a mix of everybody's DNA. And so Paul didn't actually commit the crime against Jilian to begin with. He's not the only one. Tad's still culpable here. We just haven't gotten to that part yet. Paul took some activity that was after the fact, but the human body will do weird things once it's been traumatized to the point of passing. And what he thought he saw may not have been there. He made the comment the trailer was bumping all over the place. He wasn't sure. It was almost like a mercy type of activity at the end. So to say that he actually committed both crimes isn't probably quite correct yet. We need Tad's testimony to find out what Tad did.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And Maxine said that's probably why there wasn't a lot of blood by the car, but there was. I mean, there was. Tiffany freaked out about it because there was so much. So, and I remember when I got here, 5 days after it happened, you could still see the spots in the dirt there. So, I believe there was quite a bit of blood actually. And Yep said, Patrick, I don't believe that's correct looking at the autopsy report now. So I'll leave that to Yep to figure out. And that's regarding the broken neck. Can we clarify what kind of trailer this is? It's a gooseneck horse trailer. Big old long one, actually. 26 foot. 26 foot. All right, so let me keep going, or we'll be here all night long. I can't believe you guys have stuck around this long. Thank you, especially considering all the 30 minutes of technical problems at first. All right, so then they are going to Beasley. So they stopped once before Beasley's property. Paul said he had been at the Beasley's property several times. Tad opened the trailer. Paul pulled the gun on him, not knowing who it was. Paul then drove the truck to the mound of dirt, and Tad got the skid steer. He said they took Veronica's body out of the trailer. Then they got the freezer out. So they got Veronica's body out, then the freezer. So they were not putting the freezer in the trailer. At least Veronica wasn't. They lifted Jilian up, and okay, that answers that. Neither were in the freezer until they got to the site that they buried them. So they lifted Jilian up, and they put her in the freezer first. They had a hard time picking Veronica up, and this is heartbreaking. But they had a hard time picking Veronica up. Paul tried to use a rope, like put a lasso rope, but that didn't work. And so then Tad used a skid steer bucket to get Veronica in the freezer. He said they put ratchet straps around to lock it shut, and then they put the freezer in the ground with the skid steer. Tad said to strip the clothes off, and Cole had come by and Cole had come by at that point and overheard, and Tad told Paul they needed to strip their clothes off and throw the clothes in the hole as well. Paul said Tad was completely naked and that Paul only had on his socks and then his pistol belt in his holster. So Cole had arrived with Tad's pickup and bale of hay. Paul said Cole did not spread the hay out. And I don't know if you guys caught it earlier, but when Cole went to the house with Cora and she had hid her clothes underneath the floorboard in her closet, Cole was there to get clothes for Paul and Tad because, well, they were throwing their clothes in the hole. Paul said that Cole then left with the pickup and the trailer. So Cole didn't help spread out the hay. He left with the pickup and trailer. Paul said that he was sitting on the ground and Tad was filling in the hole with dirt and concrete. And then Tad spread some hay over that mound. They loaded the skid steer on the trailer that Tad had there, and they took it to Tad's house. Paul then got in his truck, and he went home. And there's a vehicle switching again. Cole had driven Paul's truck. So after all is said and done, Paul gets in his truck, and he goes home. He said his wife helped him to fix his finger, and the cooks even came over, and Lacey took really good care of his finger. She did a lot of, like natural things for it and stuff, natural home remedies for it. Yeah, lemongrass, oregano, a whole bunch of different things. He said that him and Cole power washed the trailer. Now, I think I didn't catch that. Was it days later? Did I get that right? Or did he say something else, Tara? When they
No, it was days after.
Okay.
Paul was not sure as to how many days, but it was days after.
Days after. Okay.
He and Cole both power washed the trailer. It was 12 miles away. I can't remember where they did that, but they power washed the trailer at a residence.
Yeah, so they power washed the trailer, and then at that point, I saw Paul staring Tad down, and I mean, he was staring him down like he was pissed. I don't know what that was about. Maybe it's just a general feeling that Paul has towards Tad at this point. I don't know, but that's what I caught. Paul said that Jilian had to go because and this is what Tiffany had said. She had to go because she was a witness to the crime if she had survived. And Jilian was indeed dead before they got to the burial site. And that was the last thing said. And then court was adjourned for the day. And then Sheree Powell said, "Is the testimony continuing tomorrow?" It is. So Paul will begin with his testimony in the morning. He only testified for maybe an hour and a half today. Yeah, about an hour and a half. So he probably has quite a bit more tomorrow. And then they also plan for there to be testimony all day on Thursday. There is still the sheriff was called to testify. What's that? Yeah, Sheriff Bully was called to testify. Walmart employee, Tractor Supply employee, Big R or Big S or whatever it is. And there is one other. They were all called to testify too. Now that doesn't mean that they will have to, but they have to, be ready to testify. So it is intended to go through all the way through Thursday afternoon. And we will be here. Tara said, "No joke."
We will be here.
So what happens tomorrow, Shaylee? We'll hear Paul continue his testimony. Then there'll be a cross-examination. And then depending on time, they'll go on to the next witnesses or they'll adjourn for the day. And the next witnesses will be on Thursday.
This is a great question. What is Tad and Cole's demeanor in court? Tad looked like he did in September, like he's looked on camera. He just has that same look about him, that same carry about him. It's like it appears as though he's not affected or impacted. Cole, I thought, looked a little different today. He came in a little more sunken in the shoulder, a little more down in the jawline, almost defeated is what I would say he looked like today. He definitely he didn't have the same carry to him as he has had in the past. Saw some other things in there. Was Tiffany's son there to see? I didn't see any of Tiffany's children at all. I don't know that I would recognize them other than Wrangler, but no, did not see that. Probably yes, Beverly will be on tomorrow night once we're through the testimony for tomorrow. I wonder if others also feel Tiffany manipulated them. I bet so.
Cora does.
I bet so. You're muted.
Oh, I was just talking.
You're I bet that
I was
does.
muted on purpose, but I felt like I do think that Cora possibly feels manipulated as well by some of the looks, that like just her facial expressions at times. I do feel she feels that way.
So the acquittal queen got cut off at the knees today a few times. She had several objections that were overruled, just one after another after another. A lot of them were leading the witness, and the judge wasn't taking any of that. A couple of spousal privilege ones went through, some didn't. So, yeah, she's going to run for her money on this one. Tiffany looked like hell. I didn't think she looked that great. Her hair was disheveled. It was a mess. It's very, very long, so the curls are falling out of it. She didn't look that good for the few minutes she was in the courtroom. I do have a PayPal.
Yeah, it's running on the bottom of the screen.
Well, that's a Venmo. She wants a PayPal. I have the Venmo's running
PayPal
across
is on the
there.
bottom of the screen.
Oh, it's on there? Okay, never mind. I don't know.
And while I'm at that, I want to thank Run for Justice for your PayPal. Thank you so much. And the other one, I don't want to say your name, but JJ initials. Thank you very much for your PayPal donation. Those
We
definitely
also
help
had
us.
another one come in, and I don't know if they want me to say their name or not. I won't, but somebody provided $50 worth of support on my Venmo. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we
That's
really
very, very
appreciate that.
kind. And then let me go back to the questions. The text messages are coming in like crazy and everything. If Tiffany is broke, then I wonder how before they start selling her things. No clue. No clue. So wait, we're all five defendants present in court for this. I thought just no. Paul and Cora Paul and Cora they waived the right to their preliminary trial, and they waived the right to a speedy trial. So when they show up in court in February, they are actually going to they're going to execute their plea deals because Cora and Paul have both accepted plea deals. Tiffany, Cole, and Tad were in the courtroom to start with. And Tiffany was excused from the courtroom once she waived her right to the preliminary hearing and a speedy trial. Tiffany's next court date is April 16th. At that point in time, either she goes into trial, or if she takes a plea deal, she will probably plead out at that point. Let me see. Tiffany didn't manipulate anybody. They all had free will. Any one of them could have said, no, we're not doing this, bad idea, but they did. You know what, Dog Mom? Yeah, they did make their own decisions. They were manipulated. Tiffany, we didn't share the specific details of what Tiffany told these folks of the sexual assault. What she told Paul specifically, Cora didn't testify to this, but Paul gave specific details as to what occurred against her grandchildren, supposedly. Though there was no actual evidence presented, she claimed to have evidence that was never presented. It was never asked for. That's the ticker here, that Tiffany used her grandkids to exploit these people to attack two innocent people. And so they were manipulated, but I agree. They still should have made a decision of, why don't you contact law enforcement? I'll say this much, and it'll come out later on. Remember, this is just the preliminary. We're not putting all the cards on the table. This is just the first round of Texas Hold'em, right? So, Texas Hold'em, you have several rounds before you get to the end of the game, right? This is that kind of thing. This is just the first round of the poker game. We've got several more rounds to go. There's a lot more cards to show. And there's been things that we've not shared. And I can tell you right now, some of the tips that we got that we refused to share because we couldn't back them got back today in court. So hang tight. This slope gets slipperier and uglier by the second, quite honestly.
You can keep talking. I'm gonna be on my phone. I've got to get. I've got to get somebody's book out of my phone.
Okay, Kari's got to go do something, so I'm gonna keep chatting at you guys for a moment. Well, my questions are still there. The Cooks and Beasley. Beasley didn't know much. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think Beasley is going to receive charges. Out there, leases work all the time. You can lease the land, never tell somebody what you're doing on it. They had permission to be on the property from Beasley to dig the hole to do quote unquote tree work. I don't think Beasley will. The Cooks, I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen there. That's still kind of. That's out there for me. I'll be there. Had to go to OKC to talk to a lawyer, have some electronics tested. Outstanding, CB. Names of people in the courtroom today, family. As far as who was in the courtroom, you had several people from the media. You had several detectives, investigators. Those guys sit on the front row. A lot of family members from Veronica's side. There was representation from Jilian's side today. There were several individuals in there that I don't know. So, but there was only allowed to be 50, and we were pretty full in there today. It was standing room only, but the standing room only was not allowed. Is that Detective ATT get to cross exam? District, I'm not sure you're trying to say their ducking point, so let me know. Thank you, Serenity. We try. We definitely try. So they did make all their own decisions possible to manipulate someone. This is how cult leaders do it. Bingo. Yeah, this was definitely forming into some sort of weird type of cult or subcult something. It was out there. So was TA in court to hear any of the testimony today from Cora and Paul? No. Once she waived her right to the speedy trial, once she waived her right to the preliminary hearing, she was excused. Her lawyer did stay, though, with permission from the judge. See, Tiffany manipulated, coerced them. It's a couple good ways to put it. Tara and Kari, would y'all like my son and I to make y'all some food delivered to y'all somewhere? Have no idea. The lunch break today was a complete fluke. We had to come back to the hotel real quick. We're just a couple minutes from the hotel to the courthouse. We'd actually ridden with somebody else to the courthouse today. We took my car, and we actually went down the street from us to go find food, and we couldn't find food down that street, not realizing that's not where you go. So we had to backtrack and go to the other side of town. We got over there, grabbed a bite to eat, left, and we barely missed it. They tried to hold the doors open for us. They realized we weren't in there. They tried to hold the doors open for us. It was very kind, but it just was one of those things. We just didn't get in there. So, but thank you, Patrick. Have no idea. Like, we get out here, we have no idea what kind of help we need. We don't know what our days are going to be like. Lee D, I think that's how you say your name, Lee or Lay D. Tiffany hated Veronica, and that was her motive. No matter what she or anyone else says about protecting their children, just my opinion. After today, what I heard about Tiffany walking around Paul and Veronica, and Tiffany laughing in an evil laugh, yeah, she was just hateful. She really, really seems absolutely hateful. Hey, She-Wolf, thank you for becoming a member. I know Kari's going to appreciate that. Kari just stepped out a second. She had to make a quick call. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I'm
but
right here.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very
She-Wolf. We
much, She-Wolf. I
appreciate
appreciate
that. Yeah, there is exactly, Katie. Once preliminary is waived, they're escorted out. Let's see. Going through, seeing Kari's twin. Where'd you guys see Kari's twin at? Cash App. I don't know if she's got a Cash App. I have one, I think.
I have a Cash App.
I can look it up. I feel weird about the cash thing. I know Kari's just like, hey, it's one of those things. Everybody does it. I'm still new to this. This is my first. I'm just here for the note taking. So I can give you the Cash App if you want it. There's a Venmo across the screen and a PayPal. All that great fun stuff. But thank you. That is very, very kind of you to ask. Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Yep,
the
I
Cash
feel
App
bad
is
for
the
Veronica's
same.
kids too. Not sure about Paul Grice's wife. Have no idea what's going on there. And Kari's fallen off. I wonder if Kari took her phone and she lost connection for a second. Somebody found the Cash App. Look, they're awesome. There she is. Kari came back on.
Yeah, I've been here.
I'm not sure what's going on with her, but there she is.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Where'd you go? Where you at?
Oh gosh, why are there multiple of me? We don't need that.
I don't know, but I added them both. I'll remove one and see what happens. Is that the right one to remove? Is that the right one to remove?
I think so.
There you are. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you, Serenity.
Yes, there's been some really great comments going on, and it's so active and so awesome.
Crazy Mama, we went over that at the very beginning of this. So if you just kind of skip through the technical difficulties at first, and I will go back in this evening and I'll put chapters in this video. So if you go back to watch it on the replay, you'll be able to skip straight to say what Paul had to say or whatever it might be and make it easier for you.
8 a.m. is when the doors open, Jeannie. 8 a.m. Let's see. And She-Wolf became a new member, Kari.
Yes. So I was saying thank you, but I don't think my internet was working right. So thank you so much.
Was not working. Absolutely agree, Monica. That was the part today that really struck the courtroom when Paul mentioned the evil laugh. It shook the courtroom terribly. It really, really did. There wasn't a person in there that couldn't hold it together. It was a struggle for everybody. No, I don't think she's right in the head either. There's definitely something going on there. Oh, look at that. You guys are awesome. They know. They were like, "Hey, do you have a cash app?" Like, I have no clue. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about money.
the Cash App is actually the same as the PayPal. It's Crime Watch 26. I just
How it
don't use it
works.
very often. And let's see.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so the person that just said they sent a PayPal, yeah, we got that. I said thank you JJ because I didn't want to say the whole name that's listed there.
Oh my goodness. The chat is alive. Oh. Trying to-
Patrick, we don't want a twin, Kari.
Dude, do you have any idea this look this lady runs?
Yeah, we don't want
Don't
two
do
of them.
that to me. Dude, it's been like she's like, of all the people to miss part of a courtroom, I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't. Oh my God. How does this happen? Oh, good Lord.
Thank you, Husker RN. I mean, we really do try. There's things obviously we don't even want to have to say, but if it's said in court and it's public record in court, then
Yeah.
I just feel it's our responsibility to you guys to give you the whole truth.
Well, it's hard for us because we've become very, we've become friends with the family. We know these people. We care about them. You know, we look out for them and we protect them to the best of our abilities, and to try to tiptoe around the things we want to tiptoe around, but still give you all the information. Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun at all. That's his ex-wife. Paul Grice has an ex-wife that lives in Alaska with his first kid. That's where that came from. Wrangler's not in Washington. We've been told where he's at. It's not Washington State. That's not where we've been told. But Wrangler's not one we focus on. We've not verified that at all. It's not been our focus. So we just know he's not in Washington State. Oh my goodness. Yep, it is difficult to navigate while presenting facts, tough and balanced. And we appreciate you saying we're doing it so well, because it's, whoa.
It is hard.
Yeah. But it was today was eye-opening.
It sure was. All right. Well, we've been on here almost 3 hours exactly. So we're going to go ahead and end it here. I don't know about Tara, but I am super tired. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys all are too. But again, just thank you so much for, hanging out with us tonight, being here to listen, caring about justice for Veronica and Jilian, caring about their families. We just really appreciate you guys. We know you could have been anywhere else. You didn't have to sit here. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for being respectful. With 1,200 of you in the chat, I don't think there was many issues. Thank you, because we just really appreciate that. And the mods, you all are wonderful. Thank you. And for the PayPal donations, if anybody sends a Cash App, thank you for that. We appreciate you guys. It does help. So with that said, we are going to probably get off here. I'm going to go eat my sub. And then we'll be back at court first thing in the morning. So we'll do a live again at 7:30. It was just a little easier for us. We got out of court at 5, and then it was like almost 6 before we got back to the hotel after getting dinner and what have you. So 7:30, if that works for you guys, we'll be live at 7:30 tomorrow night to share whatever we learned during court tomorrow.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Kari.
Everybody. Love you all. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.